Oh, good to be back. Good to see everybody. Been going at it since February. I mean, really, scouts have been going at it, since last summer. Getting everything, final touches on it, working hard, proud of our group. Got a really good group of scouts. They understand what we stand for and what we want, and do a good job identifying the right, pieces and players and the type of players we want to bring into this organization in this city. Good to have the players back in this week, see the coaches, and watching them work with our strength staff. So that's been good. Fire away.
Chris, when you start your lining up, moving ahead, okay, you got to re-sign your own free agency in the draft, and you're such a draft conscious. How can you mesh those together when your most important piece is in April after everything else?
Repeat the last part of that.
Well, how can you prioritize the draft when you've already had to go the other two steps first?
Yeah, you'd like to. I always hear this, and you'd like to do as much work as you can in the off season, which is financially viable for you, and then you got to balance out, the in-house players that you want to take care of. So that's a definite balance. And then you got to identify what's in the draft, versus what's in free agency and what's on the street after the draft. I think I've told y'all, and we've talked about this, and we've been pretty good at it. Like, player acquisition is year-round. And, I know everybody thinks March is the only time you acquire good players, but you can acquire good players in October. They're out there, and you just got to continue to hunt and find and search. And, our scouts have done a really good job of identifying the Kenny Moores, the Muhammads, the Pierre Desires, the guys that have come in and been, good players for us, in September and September claims. So it's definitely a balance. You want to fill as many needs as you can, but, filling them all sometimes doesn't happen, and then you got to get a hold of the fort player at that position and move forward. I'll say this, every team has a hole. Like, it's almost a misnomer out there where every team, there's these perfect teams. No, every team has some really good strengths and some weaknesses. And it's your job, as our staff and our coaches to figure out what they are and then play around them when you have them.
Chris, this season's been wild. And I want to ask you about the money that some of these receivers are getting is crazy. It's quarterback money. Hill, Adams, and I wonder, what are your guys' discussions? After the season, you said we need to add more playmaking.
Mm-hmm.
Tight end, I think that's pretty clear. How do those discussions change with what the value is on the market for what you have to pay these guys? And I know those are the top end guys,
Mm-hmm.
versus you draft them and they're on rookie deals, and how do you guys deal with that when you're trying to add at that position?
That's a good question. You can't, I think it depends on where you think you're at. Do you make that, go for it move where you're giving up, the farm for a wide out, and then paying him inordinate amount of money? I've always thought that, the really good defenses, the really good defensive coordinators find a way to take them out of the game. They can. Doesn't make them less valuable, but, they find a way. So, to me, it's easier. I don't know if it's easier, but to find a guy in the draft and let them develop. And they don't always hit right away. I was a part of drafting Tyreek Hill. Tyreek was great right away as a returner, but it took a few years for him to come on as a wideout. Adams in Green Bay. It was year 3 or year 4. Even go back here, Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne was like year 3. But it doesn't mean they can't play and help you, and you can play winning football with them. Sometimes it just takes time. And then balancing that out versus what you have to pay, you'd rather have to, go get your own.
Chris, along the same lines, when it comes to drafting receivers, just generally, what's the hardest part of that assessment from college to pro?
Yeah, it's good.
What's the hardest part about, sort of scouting those guys?
In college, they get I mean, you can look at the stats, and there's 75, 80 guys that have caught 80 balls, for 1,000 yards. But in our league, the coverage is tighter. It's more physical. They're getting, especially at the line of scrimmage, what you're seeing in college football, they get a lot of free releases that they don't get in our league. And the access they have getting off the football, and then the tempo they play at. So they're playing at these teams are running plays. We're watching tape, and you're watching 80, 90 plays on offense, and they're going every 20, 25 seconds. So they're getting some pretty simplistic looks defensively. So I think, and that's the hardest thing to see how they're going to make the transition to handle. How they're going to handle press coverage, how they're going to handle cloud coverage, how they're going to adjust. I think it's one of the harder positions to really come in and, make the adjustment. They have to be smart, and they've got to have a level of instincts to really be able to do it. But they can. We're seeing it now more and more. Kids are throwing, I think the change with like 7-on-7 football, the passing game is just, I don't want to say it's completely changed, but kids at a young age are out throwing and catching at a young age, all through junior high, high school, into college. So it's a hard position to make the transition, but guys do it.
Like I said, Chris, I think we'd probably all be shocked if you guys didn't take a wide receiver at some point next week. Why do you guys have so much faith in what you have in-house right now at that position?
Yeah. So everybody's scared of the unknown. They're scared of the unknown just because they haven't seen. So they just think, well, let's just go get somebody else. That guy's unknown too. Just because the draft projections are high doesn't mean it's automatic success for that guy. So now you're getting guys that we've had in the building here for a couple of years, and you just take Pitt for example. Pitt showed really good flashes as a rookie, and then came on and had a big year. But when you got guys like Paris, who has had injuries, you got Mike, you got Patman. These are big talented kids who got a year, and you can see their development coming on. It's no different at tight end. Mo's never been the first option in anything we've ever done. If the coverage dictated the ball going to Mo, he'd get the football. And he was pretty successful when we threw it to him. And then watching Granson, as a rookie come in and, have a minor contribution, but we see good things in Granson as an athlete and as a route runner, and think that he's got a chance to be a really good F tight end. So we think we've got some young players that now, given the chance to play, having a chance to ascend. And then Naheem, getting him more involved and making sure we get him involved in the passing game. And he's a proven, he's a proven player that's made a lot of, big plays. So, almost everybody says we just lack complete weapons. Well, Jonathan, pretty good. Naheem, pretty good. Pittman, pretty good. There's only one ball now. Do we need to add? Yeah, we do. But we also have some young players, too, that can fall into the mix.
You said the receivers are hardest to, one of the harder positions to make the adjustments. Does that also mean that they become now, if they weren't already, one of the hardest positions to scout? Because you just said there's 80 guys with similar stats against playing the same sort of coverage.
I think they've always been. I always say this: it's the most overgraded and overdrafted position in the draft. When we break it down, we'll have grades on freaking every wideout. Now shifting through and I think off the top of my head, I think it's the one that's the most drafted, the most players drafted in the draft is wideout. So yeah, it's not, and I don't know if it's ever been easy, Greg. I think if you just look at history, I don't know if it's ever been, a real easy position. And look, usually when, the quarterback has a lot to do with that too. He can make guys look good.
Does your current quarterback change at all how you might scout a receiver in a current year and how they mesh with young receivers?
No, I do think Matt's accuracy is going to be an asset to all these guys. But no, he doesn't change the thinking.
Chris, when you have a bunch of guys that are in the top, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 guys at their position, and they're hurt, and they're coming off serious injuries, you already talked about how difficult it is to assess receivers. How much does that change the evaluation, and how do you fill in the gaps?
Are you talking about the receivers coming out of the draft or on our own team?
No, the receivers coming out of the draft.
Yeah, if they're hurt. Well, I try to be a doctor, but I'm not one. So we listen to our doctors, what our rehab people say, how long's the rehab, when do we realistically think he's going to be able to get back and play. And then usually, my experience with those type of guys is, they might give you something, but you're really looking at year 2. Blackman was a little bit of an aberration because he came in and did so well as a rookie coming off the ACL. Dio had moments, but I think we'll see a better version of him this year coming, off the Achilles injury. So every case is unique. You listen to your doctors and your rehab and your strength staff, and then you make a determination of, where's the risk and the value and when to take them.
Chris, I think Rudy Tomjanovich was if you like a guy, go get a guy. This kind of his mentality. Over the course of your career, how have you learned how to be patient, waiting for the board to fall to you versus knowing when to go up and get that guy?
Well, so we did some studies, and I know a lot of teams have done this, but the difference in each draft, it's like the level of star player in each draft is different. So, all right, usually it'll fall off anywhere between 8 to 12, where you're saying, okay, we think these are real blue chip players. All right, then from 13, 14 to 40, all right, here's this group of players. All right, then from 41 to 80, here's this group of players. When you look at the history of all their careers over time, it usually plays out pretty similar. So unless we just know, we're going, okay, this guy's got some real special stuff in him to go get. Jonathan, we went up and we moved up to get Jonathan, and we thought he had special stuff in him. Then it's usually good to just be patient and wait. Then if you got a chance to kick back and stay in that same realm and get the similar type player plus pick up another one, that's usually the philosophy we go with.
I feel like the value isn't that, outside of a couple players, it isn't that different between pick 20 and pick 40.
It's pretty similar. Yeah, I think if you look at history, it's pretty similar. I would tell you that should Darius Leonard have been a first-round pick? He was, 36? Should Braden Smith have been a first-round pick? Should Pittman have been a first-round pick? Should Jonathan Taylor have been a first-round pick? And that's the grouping, you're kind of looking at right there. Huh? Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Maybe this year. Maybe this year we will, but Connie told me we got y'all dinner. How could you not come to dinner and spend all day Thursday with us?
A serious question on
Go ahead.
What is the draft room like when you don't have a first?
Well, it's always pretty loose anyways. But look, we're looking at it. Is there a guy that we just think, okay, we need to go get this because he's really this guy's going to start for us for 10 years and that's a projection. But he's got to be a unique guy that we really have a strong conviction on to go move up.
You mentioned that great defensive coordinators take away top wide receivers. How much does it change when you still do that? When you look at the final 4 teams this year, all seem to have 2 either wide receivers or tight end who are at sort of Pro Bowl levels. So does that increase the desire to go maybe find a Robin to the Batman?
No, that's good. No, it's fair. It's very fair. Look, you want as many playmakers as you can get. You do. And I think every year you can look at it, at a multiple of ways. When was it a few years ago when the Super Bowl between the Rams and, New England was a low-scoring game. When Tampa and Tampa scored a bunch of points, but, they did a good job defensively against Kansas City. But look, the more weapons you got, the easier it is, the harder it makes it on you defensively.
What characteristics does this draft class have? What stands out that makes it a little bit different than maybe last time?
I think depth. I think the depth. Last year with being, with that extra year of eligibility with COVID, we're seeing a lot more players, especially 4, 5, 6, 7th undrafted free agents that we think got a chance to really make it. So I think, yeah, there's a little more depth in the draft in totality.
How many blue chip players do you rate in this draft?
I got to think about the top. This is a guess. 5 or 6.
What's the definition?
Is that fewer than?
I think every year's different. Some years you'll get it really heavy. Some years not as heavy. But doesn't mean there's not going to be one. Doesn't mean there's not going to be blue chip players down the line. It's just ones that everyone seems to have a consensus on, 5 or 6.
With the decision to sign Stephon Gilmore, did you go into this offseason thinking that a big-time secondary playmaker was something that you needed, or did the price just come right, or what kind of made that the right fit?
Good player. Good medical after we brought him in for medical. We've been kind of tracking and keeping our finger on, Stephon the whole time. Feel fortunate to get him. Not only the player, but who he is, what he stands for. But we've been kind of keeping it and tracking it the whole time. And, finally when we brought him in and got the medical on him, it was really good. We feel really good about where he's at and his future. And anytime you got a chance to add a corner that, with his pedigree, at a price tag that you think is good for both parties, I think you do it. And we did.
Chris, we talk a lot about drafting for need versus, just picking the best players. But are there times when need is so overwhelming or so clear that you lean more toward need? And I don't mean your team, but just generally.
That is the age-old question. You just got to make sure you're not passing a great player. You don't want to pass a great player. So just to take the need. I've always got my eye thinking about that a bunch where, all right, if we have this need, but we got this guy leveled up here. I mean, if there's a different level, then you're just going to take the better player. And if it's even, all right, then we'll take the need. I mean, I always go back to Reggie. I mean, I think they needed a corner here badly. I mean, like, it was bad. They needed a corner, but all of a sudden the corner went off the board and they ended up taking Reggie Wayne. I mean, and so you don't beat your head against the wall just to fill the need. Like I said, there's time. You have time, and there's still good players on the market, so you let it work itself out. Couldn't you imagine the freak out when we take 2 defensive guys? Oh. Oh, I know yours. I can already see the article the next day.
Chris, is it true, though, that you have to view it that your needs today might not be your needs tomorrow?
Yeah. I mean, I think you always got to have enough faith and confidence we can lay our head on the pillow at night knowing that we'll find, some type of answer between now and the start of the season.
You mentioned how hard it is for wide receivers to make an immediate impact. Is it even harder for tight ends? I think rookie tight ends production over the years is really hard for those guys right away.
Yeah. I mean, look, any rookie that comes in, there's a definite learning curve. But yeah, I mean, you want to be able to get good production if you draft one. I mean, look, we took Travis Kelce. He didn't play as a rookie. I mean, got hurt and, had the knee and ended up sitting out. But yeah, I mean, we got to have a role, defined of what we want him to do and put him in that role and let him go.
Do you need to have 2 wide tight ends? Most obviously one.
I think that's the hard one. I mean, look, we all want the superstar, okay? You all want the Kittles, the Kelce, the unique playmaker that causes a real mismatch. But, all right, so then you got that. Then you got other guys who can catch the ball and, good. But the guy that can block the line of scrimmage, that's a hard dude to find. Like Jack Doyle was good. I always thought he was really. I mean, I know y'all appreciated what he did, but I think as a league, he just kind of did it all. So yeah, I mean, like when you have a chance, we've had a pretty unique situation here in the tight end room for the last few years. When we had Eric and a young Mo who was just figuring it out, and we had Jack, and then when we got Burton who kind of played that role, and you had Jack and you had Mo. We've had the 2 Ys with kind of sprinkled in F, and then Jack who could do some F work. But yeah, when you have 2 Ys, your run game looks a little different, especially if they can catch the ball too.
Hey, Chris,
Okay, a couple more.
Frank made a mention, he kind of didn't say the door was shut on T.Y. earlier this week. What's going on with
Yeah,
that?
we'll still have some talks with T.Y. I think you all know my feelings towards T.Y. Hilton. And I think he can still play. I think he can still play productive football.
Is it more convincing him to want to continue to play, or?
Yeah, I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot of, we just got to sit down, and we've had some back and forth. I texted back and forth with him this week, as a matter of fact, and we'll continue to have some discussions. I won't get in depth with it.
Would you let the draft play out at this point, I would imagine?
Nah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. We'll
It's a
see.
matter of, hey, if anyone makes you an offer, let me know.
No, I wouldn't say that. No, I wouldn't say that. That's good. That's a good loaded one. I mean, pretty good. You freaking slid that one in.
All right, last one.
Everybody that work with the quarterbacks in this class, is that just due diligence as normal, or do you think maybe you could get a guy who could be the future this year?
Normal. We've done it every year. Agents do a good job making sure they leak whenever we do. Wells, is this your last
No.
Are you still going to show up?
I'll be there next week. I'm here through the start of training camp.
Okay, all right. We won't have a goodbye party for you yet.
I hadn't told everybody.
I love it. Oh, you just finally got me.
Smoke screens in here.
Oh,
Jack, last one, go ahead.
I think this is live too. Hey, can you cut that?
One of the questions.
Yes.
You mentioned Gilmore, and the way things, one thing leads to another, leads to another. Had Ngakwe and Rock Ya-Sin not happened, did that lead the fact that you intensified Gilmore, or?
I think we still would have considered it. Yeah, I think we still would have considered it.